For most of your working life, you've probably been told the same thing. Put money in your 401k. Get the employer match. Let it grow. Retire comfortably. Your HR department pushes it, financial advisors recommend it, the government incentivizes it. It's practically treated as the default answer to retirement planning. And look, there's a reason it's popular. But there's also a lot about how 401ks actually work that most people don't understand until they're already decades in. Today, I want to walk through the real picture, the parts that get glossed over, so you can make smarter decisions about where your money actually goes. Let's start with the employer match, because this is the thing that gets used to sell the 401k harder than anything else. Free money, they call it. And it sounds great. Your company matches 50 cents on every dollar up to 6% of your salary. That's an instant 50% return before you've even picked a fund. Hard to argue with that on the surface. But here's what most people don't think about. That match is part of your total compensation. Employers factor it in when they decide what to pay you. So, in many cases, the match isn't extra money on top of your salary, it's just your salary restructured in a way that benefits them too. Some companies pay slightly lower base salaries precisely because they offer a match. It's not always free money. Sometimes it's your money, just delivered differently. And then there's vesting. Most employer matches don't belong to you the moment they land in your account. You have to earn them over time. A typical graded vesting schedule works something like this. You're 20% vested after 2 years, 40% after 3, 60% after 4, 80% after 5, and fully vested after 6. Leave before you hit those milestones and you forfeit the unvested portion. So if you're 2 years in and you get a better offer somewhere else, you might walk away from thousands of dollars in employer contributions that you thought were yours. In a job market where people change jobs every 2 or 3 years, which is increasingly common, especially in tech and corporate roles, vesting schedules can make the employer match nearly worthless. The free money has conditions attached that most people don't read carefully until it's too late. Then there are fees. This one is quiet, but it's devastating over long time horizons. Most 401k plans limit you to a curated menu of investment options, usually a handful of mutual funds that the plan administrator has selected. And those funds often carry higher expense ratios than what you'd pay if you were just investing in a brokerage account on your own. A low-cost index fund at Fidelity or Vanguard might have an expense ratio of 0.03%. Some 401k plan options run 0.5% or even higher. That gap sounds tiny, but on a $500,000 portfolio, the difference between 0.03% and 0.5% is roughly $2,350 per year. Over 20 years, compounded, that's a staggering amount of money that never makes it into your retirement. Fees don't show up as a line item on your statement. They just quietly reduce your returns year after year, and most people never notice. Now let's talk taxes, because this is where the 401k story gets complicated in a way that most people don't fully think through. The traditional pitch is this: contribute pre-tax dollars now, reduce your taxable income today, pay taxes later in retirement when you're presumably in a lower bracket. And for some people in some situations, that logic holds up. But it's built on an assumption that your tax rate in retirement will be lower than your tax rate now. That assumption isn't guaranteed. If tax rates go up over the next 20 or 30 years, which is a reasonable thing to consider given current deficit levels, you could end up paying more in taxes on withdrawals than you would have paid going in. And here's the part that really catches people off guard. 401k withdrawals are taxed as ordinary income, not as capital gains. That distinction matters a lot. If you'd held those same investments in a regular brokerage account for over a year, your gains would be taxed at long-term capital gains rates, 0% for married couples earning under roughly $94,000, or 15% for most middle-income earners. Inside a 401k, every dollar you pull out gets taxed at your ordinary income rate, anywhere from 10% to 37%, depending on how much you withdraw. So the tax advantage you enjoyed on the way in could be more than offset by the tax burden on the way out, depending on your situation. The early access problem is another one that catches people by surprise. The 401k is specifically designed to lock your money up until you're 59 and a half. Before that, any withdrawal gets hit with a 10% penalty on top of regular income taxes. So if you take out $50,000 early, you might end up losing $20,000 or more of it to taxes and penalties before you see a cent. For anyone who wants to retire before the traditional retirement age, and a lot of people do, this is a real problem. Your 401k savings are essentially off limits for potentially decades. Life doesn't always follow a neat timeline. Medical emergencies happen. Career changes happen. Opportunities come up. Having a significant portion of your net worth locked in an account you can't touch without a penalty gives you very little financial flexibility when you actually need it. There are workarounds. You can take a loan against your 401k. But if you leave your job before paying it back, voluntarily or not, the outstanding balance gets treated as an early withdrawal, triggering both the penalty and the taxes immediately. What felt like a manageable loan can turn into a five-figure tax bill the same year you're already dealing with a job loss. There's also the issue of required minimum distributions, RMDs, which kick in at age 73. At that point, the government requires you to start withdrawing a certain percentage of your account every year, whether you want to or not. The calculation is based on your account balance and a life expectancy factor set by the IRS. On a $1 million account balance, you'd be required to withdraw roughly $37,700 in the first year. On its own, that doesn't sound terrible. But if you have Social Security income, a pension, or other investment income on top of that, those mandatory withdrawals can push you into a higher tax bracket. Higher bracket means higher Medicare premiums. It can also cause more of your Social Security benefits to become taxable. The government is essentially forcing you to recognize income on a schedule that may not align with your actual needs and taxing you accordingly. A Roth IRA has none of these issues. No RMDs, tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawals in retirement. You can access your contributions at any time without penalty. The downsides are the income limits. You can't contribute directly if you earn above $168,000 as a single filer in 2026, and the contribution cap of $7,500 a year, which is significantly lower than the 401k limit of $23,500. A regular taxable brokerage account gives you complete flexibility. No contribution limits, no withdrawal restrictions, no mandatory distributions. You pay capital gains tax on profits when you sell, but at the lower long-term rate if you've held for over a year. The trade-off is no upfront tax break, and you're investing with after-tax dollars. For self-employed people, a solo 401k or SEPIRA can offer contribution limits significantly higher than a traditional 401k with more flexibility. Real estate is another avenue that generates income and builds wealth outside the traditional account structure entirely. Here's the honest bottom line on the 401k. It's not a scam. If your employer offers a match and you have low-cost index fund options in the plan, contributing enough to capture the full match is almost always the right first move, even with the vesting caveat. The automatic payroll deduction also helps a lot of people save consistently who might otherwise spend that money. There's real value in that structure. But it is not the one-size-fits-all retirement solution it gets marketed as. The fees can be higher than you realize. The tax benefits depend heavily on assumptions about your future tax rate that may not hold. The inflexibility is a real constraint that can hurt you if your life doesn't follow a straight line to retirement at 65. And the RMDs at 73 create a forced tax event that can work against you at exactly the moment you've stopped earning. The smartest approach for most people is to use the 401k as one piece of a larger strategy, not the whole thing. Capture the employer match if there is one. Then look hard at a Roth IRA, especially if you're earlier in your career and in a lower tax bracket now than you expect to be later. And if you've maxed both of those out and have more to invest, a regular brokerage account gives you the flexibility and tax efficiency that neither of the others can fully provide. The goal is to understand what you're actually agreeing to before you're 30 years in and it's too late to change course.